Hello and welcome to a new episode of B2B E-commerce Integrated. My name is Arno, Chief Product Officer here at Sana Commerce, and this podcast is all about B2B e-commerce. So in today's episode, I have a guest all the way from the US, Justin King, VP B2B and Chief Evangelist at Salsify. Welcome, Justin. Thanks for being on this show.
Well, thank you for having me. I have had a relationship with Sana Commerce for quite a few years. And just really happy to be a part of your podcast and share the good news about what's happening in B2B e-commerce.
Awesome. Yeah, it will be a great show. Thank you. So yeah, just start with the with an introduction. So VP of B2B and Chief Evangelist. So what are you doing at Salsify?
Well, I think it's interesting to hear a little bit of the history. I started a blog in 2007 called ecommerceandb2b.com. And back in 2007, nobody cared about B2B e-commerce, right? Nobody.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. And I was writing on this blog a point of view, a perspective, some thought leadership, and nobody came to my blog, Arno. Nobody. I mean, my mom, my dad came to my blog, but that's it, right? And over time, especially with I was part of the Grainger.com launch. And when that launched here in the US, everybody went to Google and typed in B2B e-commerce, and my site was the only site dominated 3 pages of Google, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
So kind of very quickly, my blog became kind of a source of information, and I just pride myself on talking practically to manufacturers and distributors about the differences between B2B and B2C, about the challenges in B2B, the complexity of B2B, and really the practicalities of how we do this kind of in a step-by-step way. And so I don't know all the big words. I'm more of a practical guy. I turned my blog eventually into a book called Digital Brand Secrets, and really have used that as my platform. And now I work for a software company, focused on this B2B world. So it's been quite a journey, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think back in 2007, Sana was, let's say, technically not even born, but we had, I think, our first steps towards that. I was already working for the company where it originates from. And we also didn't know about B2B back in these days, or let's say we had customers saying, yeah, we are doing business also with another group of businesses, right? Yeah, we were big in retail back in the days, and they say, yeah, we have also our business customers. I say, business customers, they're a little bit different, and that was, what later on was called B2B, and you were there then from the very beginning, like us, and that's awesome. That brings us back a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of my proudest moments are when people use some of the things that I wrote back in 2008, and they say some of those phrases today. Like B2B e-commerce is about the customer's job, right? That's the focus, is the customer's job. I wrote that in 2008, and I think that's probably the best part of this, is actually having some of that actually work out as practical advice for people.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, and let's maybe start right away. So, why should B2B companies invest more in e-commerce in 2023? Because it's the beginning of the year. Everybody have good New Year's resolutions and all that stuff. So I thought, you're the thought leader. Let's ask that question to you.
Well, I mean, on some levels, haven't we already proven the case, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do we really need to state the case over and over again? I've been talking about this since 2008, but I've been speaking on the stage since 2010. And it started off with me saying, hey, please follow me into this journey into B2B e-commerce. And now my message is different, right? It's not please follow me. No, I don't mean follow me, but please join this journey into e-commerce. The message has changed to, like, you've got to do this to survive, right?
Yes.
And I don't mean do this to survive as creating this cute little web store, right? This thing you kind of put in the corner and kind of treat as a separate thing that's not really strategic or part of your competitive advantage. I'm talking about making digital part of the company's lifeblood, like the ERP is part of your lifeblood, making digital a part of your lifeblood. So in one case, it's haven't we proven the case, but I get it. There's still lots of question marks out there. I, this past week, here in the U.S., Walmart, which is our largest retailer, right?
Yeah.
Walmart launched their business to business website called business.walmart.com. I think it's, we've watched Home Depot and Lowe's, kind of the big kind of DIY retailers here in the US, move into B2B. We've watched Amazon move into B2B. But when we watch a mainline retailer, right, someone that really hasn't been in B2B that much, and they move into B2B, it's because they, number one, see the opportunity, right? The amount of potential revenue, of course, in this opportunity. But number two, they have customer demand, right? Customers are saying, hey, we want an experience where we can go online, find the products and solutions that we're looking for, purchase it easily, know that it's going to show up at my doorstep or at my job site or at my company, whatever it might be. And that's the reason they're doing it. Like this isn't, they're not doing it because they have to do it. Like nobody told Walmart, you have to get into B2B. I mean, that's ridiculous. They're doing it because the opportunity is there and the customer demand is there. I mean, we've talked in the past about millennials and things like that, but now we're moving into a brand new generation of Gen Z. I have 4 daughters, 4 teenage older daughters are 23, 20, 19, 18. So these are true Gen Z young ladies. And let me tell you, I mean, they don't know a world without the internet, right? The internet, e-commerce, digital delivery, it's all they know, right? When they order food, they don't go to the store and order. I mean, sometimes they do, they enjoy that. They go to DoorDash and Uber Eats. And they are now joining the workforce. My 23-year-old daughter, scary as it is joining the workforce. And let me tell you, she expects digital in all aspects of her life. It's the expectation. It's not something that's nice to have. It's the expectation.
Yeah, it's a must-have.
So it's here, right? It's here.
Yeah,
it's here. We've got, companies have to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, I have 3 daughters, so I know how you feel. So, but they are a little bit younger, so they are 5 and 9. So 5 are twins, so that's why they're so
9 and 2.
Yeah, so they keep me busy, but yeah, and they maybe not even Generation Z, but after that, so when they grow up, so and they are born almost with their iPads in their hands, and they expect everything to be digital, right? They also we don't have a touch TV yet, but they are touching the TV because they think it's interactive. That is if they are watching TV, because most of the time they are, of course, on YouTube or whatsoever. So, but these are this is exactly the thing. But let's just interesting thing that you mentioned Walmart, that I didn't know yet. I thought they were already onboarded on B2B for a while, but it's big news then that they are now starting, and that's how big the opportunity is. And another thing that I mentioned is I personally do not, because we were saying the same things, we are following these trends, and we were talking about the same topic. So. And now actually I changed also the conversation, is that you do not talk about digital commerce anymore, but it is commerce, right? It needs to be, you call it the lifeblood or something. I always call the backbone, but it's the thing that is now driving business in your organizations, because as we look at our data and our customer base, we saw really that switch the past 2-3 years, that where it was indeed a side project and see, let's see what happens. Maybe 10%, 20% of our revenues will go over the digital channel, and then we will see how it grows. Shifted completely, and now, most of our customers have more than 50 or 60 or 70% of everything what they do on their revenues is digital, right? So then it's not about digital commerce anymore. It is the commerce, or it is the marketing that you're doing.
Well, and I even think that measuring by transactions or percentage is maybe an issue too. I mean, in B2B, our customers have contracts, right? Those
Correct. Yeah.
contracts dictate how they buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The methods by which they buy. Some may buy using a website, but
Yeah.
some may buy using Punch Out or EDI because
Yeah.
the contract states that, and they've built this deep integration between maybe distributor and customer, or manufacturer and customer, whatever it might be, right? And so I I actually think the word e-commerce is a bad word for that. In fact, I've
Mm-hmm.
called it e-business for the
Mm-hmm.
last little bit. I mean, e-business is a term we use back in the early 2000s to describe that. But the reason I do that is look, we have back office and front office. Back office
Mm-hmm.
typically means kind of ERP and where all the heavy transactions live. Front office is sales, marketing, customer service. And then we have the middle office, right? Deloitte calls this the messy middle,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle office. And that's where like configure, price, quote, kind of these things that kind of cross over between back office and front office happen. And the reality is that commerce includes all of those, right? Includes, of course, selling and marketing and servicing your customers. It also includes the back office transactions of an inventory and supply chain, and the messy middle in the middle of like, how do we get the right product to the customer at the right
Mm-hmm.
quote and configured and built the correct way. And so commerce almost doesn't matter where the transaction happens, right? Like I don't really care if the transaction, I mean, the transaction could happen in text. If
Yeah.
a customer finds the easiest way to purchase a product is by texting something to their salesperson, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we want easy. We want to make their customer's job easy, right?
Yeah.
And it's their perception of what's easy, maybe not the reality of what's easy. That's most important.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever the transaction happens, is fine. The reality, though, is most of the pre-work, the pre-sales that happens for that transaction is today happening online.
Yeah.
Research, discovery, finding problems, making sure that this is the correct application, that this product or service that I'm purchasing is the solving thing to my problem. That happens prior to the transaction, and we know for a fact that most of that is happening online. And that's what
Understood. And
e-commerce is, right?
yeah.
E-commerce is the full digital manifestation, of that entire experience for a customer, from finding to discovering to matching to decision making. And yes, the transaction, I almost don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Understood. I agree with you. So it needs to come from what is, convenience for the end user, for the B2B buyer in this sense. So is that also what in your head, because you're talking about the messy, I learned actually something. I know front office, back office, but the messy middle part is something interesting, which I will further look into. That's interesting. But is that also the part where B2B e-commerce is becoming complex, or also showing all the data and bringing that online? How do you see that? So what makes B2B commerce complex in
I
that
mean,
sense?
look, it goes back to that, what I wrote in 2008. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest difference between B2B and B2C is that in B2B, when someone comes to your website, they're not there because they want to be there. They're
Mm-hmm.
there because they have to be there. It's their job to be there, right? So a buyer, as part of his job, is trying to solve a problem. We don't know what problem they're trying to solve. We don't know what information they have to solve the
Mm-hmm.
problem, right? They're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to solve a business problem. By the way, this business problem could lead to potentially big problems if not solved the correct way, right? You might have legal problems. You might have safety problems. If
Mm-hmm.
you get the flow rate wrong on a chemical valve, right, and the chemicals that are allowed to flow through that valve, I mean, that's a legal problem. It's a safety problem. People can get hurt, right?
Yeah.
So the magnitude that we deal with in B2B is significantly higher than buying a pair of shoes, right? Nobody's
Correct.
coming to your website and saying, and just stumbling on a valve and saying, oh, it's such a cute valve.
I
When they
take it.
purchase that, right? They're,
Yeah.
they're there because they have a job to do. So in someone's job, I mean, there's a ton of complexity. I mean, first of all, we're not dealing with one person. We're often dealing with multiple people, right? Maybe sometimes a committee, sometimes a workflow of people that have to make sure that this is the right product. We have complex products, as we've discussed. Those complex products need to be correct and valid. And we have complex processes. Our customers are complex. The buyer himself is complex. And then, as you've alluded to, the systems. I mean, having an ERP run your company, I mean, there's no ERP out there that anyone likes, right? Because ERPs are just these big behemoth systems that do their job really, really well, but they're giant systems and platforms, and they're complex platforms. And so anytime we're talking about marrying the complex product to the complex customer, to the complex process, to the complex systems, we just have an overwhelming amount of complexity that's significantly different than B2C. I could stand up a B2C site this weekend for whatever product you want to give me, right? I could stand it up. I could be live by Sunday. I've done it. I've done it in a weekend before. No problem. In B2B, it's just not the case. There's a lot of thought that has to go into the customer's buying journey and how to map digital process to that to help them do their job easier. If we help them do their job, I don't care if it's commerce or catalogs or what you think commerce should look like. It's about the customer's job. If we help the customer do their job easier, they'll come back. If they come back, they'll spend more. That's the formula in B2B, and radically different in a shift from our brethren in the B2C retail world.
Well, I think that is one of the nicest summaries we have now in the past podcast in this series, that the difference and how and why it's actually complex. So that's a nice take on that. Thank you, Justin. And you mentioned a couple of things. So first of all, it's and that's also what we see at our customers. Sometimes they say, yeah, let's we had a tagline actually before in the beginning of the days, but we stepped away from it. Let's say we said in the beginning of times, yeah, live in 7 days, but it was simply not true, because it is exactly what you mentioned. With B2C, you can do, everybody can start a store tomorrow. Yep. But with B2B, when we also realized and we became a little bit more mature, you need more time. And that time we are spending with our customers, at least at Sana, what we do is most of the time of the is actually translating indeed that complexity into something simple or in something that maps with the customer journey and making that successful. And you need to do a lot of tricks to also do that for example, do that in small steps and not trying to do everything once. Do not throw, let's say, 800,000 SKUs into a platform and think you're gonna sell everything, right? You need to find first the products that are maybe easier to sell or better to fit or more where you have the biggest impact with your B2B buyers, for example, and so on and so on. But what I'm trying to say is, also we strongly believe it is not, let's say, or let's say why we have this podcast is also to explain to if there are still first generation B2B commerce, but and also second one already a failed project, is that it's just simple. It's not a simple thing. It's not something that is done in a week or two or in a month. It takes longer, but the reward is big if you do it well. And I think now it's even more what you mentioned at the beginning. I think you need to do it to survive, right? It's not a matter of starting anymore.
I think it even goes, we've talked a lot about, even the complexity that I talked about, feels a little stale and kind of system and platform and technology related. When I started my own company when I met Sana in the mid 2000s, and when I started that company, it was an e-commerce consultancy focused on manufacturing distributors, and I believe, and it's not the company I have today, so I'm not giving a plug for it because it doesn't exist anymore. But that company was focused on e-commerce and product content and taxonomy. And I thought I was starting a technology consultancy. I wasn't. I was starting a company that was all about change management.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there is no build it and they will come, right? You can't just, like you said, put 800,000 SKUs out there and do the integrations and build the site and just expect people to come. There is a significant change management effort that's not, I'm not just talking about customers, I'm talking about internal change management that needs to happen. In fact, I always recommend don't market at all to your customers in the beginning. Market only to your internal people. Get your salespeople on board. Align compensation, right, with your salespeople. Align compensation from the executives all the way down, and do the internal marketing to your own team, to have them become evangelists of this project, right? There's nothing better than a salesperson who believes in what you're doing and who sells it to their customers. There's nothing worse, by the way, than a salesperson that doesn't
Other
believe
way
what you're
around.
doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It will tank your project and tank your
Yeah.
process faster than anything. I mean, if a salesperson says, "Go ahead and do your research online, but come to me and I'll give you a better price," I mean that'll tank a project so fast, right? So getting your internal people, your internal teams behind this, and hopefully your executive team, it starts with your executive team and they're behind this, and it's trickle down versus kind of a grassroots thing that you're building up. And then yes, your customers are going to go through significant change, right? It's different.
Yeah.
Right? Ordering this way
Correct.
is different. And
Correct.
of course you can market to them down the road. But we have to deal with that. We have to deal with that reality at the same time that we're putting in great technology. And companies fail on that so often, Arno.
Yeah. No, I know. I totally agree, because indeed there is technology to help, right? It's not a silver bullet to solve it all. It is about change management. It is about really embracing, let's say, digital commerce and as the main thing in your organization. But talking about technology, so and we of course are ERP focused, but I think with Salsify there's also a relationship with the ERP. But what is, in your opinion, the role or importance of the ERP in these IT landscapes and in relation with B2B?
I think the first thing is that I think I mentioned earlier that the ERP is the lifeblood of the organization, right? Different in the retail world, very few people work in the same system. In the B2B world, everybody has knowledge of the ERP, right? And it affects everything from brand new products and introducing new product and new product life cycles, to supply chain, to inventory management, to pricing, to how customers get their price, to orders being placed, to the finances that determine how much revenue is earned, right? Every part of the customer life cycle is involved in the ERP, whether good or bad. So this is the lifeblood of the organization. In fact, many IT departments inside of B2B companies are more, they're not traditional IT departments that are technologists. They're ERP IT departments, right? They're IT departments that are tasked with keeping the ERP up and running, upgrading it, making sure that it's always available to the staff and employees and their partners that are accessing it, right?
Yeah.
So if it's the lifeblood of the organization, it holds a bunch of information that's relevant to the digital experience, like supply chain information and inventory, but like the customer's pricing. There's nothing worse than going online and seeing a different price than you expected, right? If it's worse, right? If it's better, then you're okay with it, right? If it's worse, so the customers want consistency. So they want to be able to call their sales rep and get price that's $14. They want to be able to call inside sales and customer service and they say $14. They want to go on the website and it to say $14, right? They don't want $17. They don't want to see general pricing. They want to see their contracted pricing with their terms and conditions. And the only way to do that is deep integration with the ERP, right? The problem is often that ERP is not meant for that type of transactional integration. So finding people that know how to integrate, and platforms like yourself that deeply integrate with just a few ERPs is so critical.
Yeah, and that's how Sana was born, right? Exactly. You just selling actually sort of our founding story is that we saw that importance when back in the days we saw these companies say, hey, we want our B2B customers or our B2B buyers, we have this new group of customers back in the 2008, 2009. And we saw that these ERPs were having that data or they were starting to implement ERPs as well. And
there's an interesting part of that. Even like this customer is not allowed to buy, like a company has a product catalog of 1,000 products.
Yeah.
This customer is contracted to only buy 10 products.
Yeah.
Right.
Subset.
At this price, which means when they go onto your website, they can't see the other 990 products.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's part of the contract, right? It's a legal document that describes the relationship between two companies that typically is housed within the ERP, and so important to integrate.
No, thank you. And that is indeed what we do, and also how we to get it in real time. What you mentioned, ERPs are okay, and the modern ones are doing better, but still, they are big systems. They are not made for scale or online transactions. It needs to be super snappy, super fast. Yeah, that is where all we put our R&D in, and that's why we exist actually. That's why we do things different, because we believe we need to take it right from there, because we want to avoid that situation that if you have it in another system and you manage it in 4 places and that customer's calling and you get this, this broken relationship because price is higher if you call somebody than when you see it online, or the other way around. That is just how we see customers struggle, and not even talking about transactions or going wrong, that you put your time, you're already stressed on the job, you put your time in making an order, and then you send it over, and then you get an error, or not even get an error. That's even worse, because these integrations are not there, not optimal. So we took that totally different, maybe more like an anti-pattern from an architecture perspective, because everybody says it's slow and no, you cannot fix it. But we took the challenge, and I think we're doing a fine job there with 1,500 customers now all over the world, even in the US, which is our biggest market. So but thanks for explaining that. Maybe to make a small sidestep in that sense, ERP is important, but with Salsify here, if you want to talk about that, because I think it's interesting also, product is also, product information and everything around it is also important, right?
I think the content often, the reason I sold my company to Salsify was I realized that so many manufacturers, so many distributors, they were treating their content last, right? They started with e-commerce and this great experience, and then they just kind of crammed content in.
Design was more important than the factual things,
And the reality is that utility is, in B2B, utility comes over design. In fact, utility trumps design significantly, where design doesn't even matter if you don't have great utility. And part of having great utility is just helping the customer do the job, right? And so part of utility is being able to find what you're looking for and be able to make a decision on the product. I'm coming to the website to solve a problem, right? I need to find the solution to my problem. Then I need to make sure this is the correct solution to my problem. And if you do those two things, search and great content, you solve a significant part of your customer's journey problems. And the foundation of that is content. And yet most companies, or many, do the content at the end instead of the beginning, right? And over time, what I've realized too is that content is not a project. There's no start date and end date. Content is a program. Content is a program that there's no such thing as good product content. There's only content that's getting better. It's improving every week, every month, every year, right? And so to do that, you need to be able to have, technology, of course, to be able to manage that. But on the other side of that is manufacturers. So if you have manufacturers listening to you, many manufacturers realize that, look, e-commerce is already happening on our distribution partners' websites. And as a supplier, as a partner, as a channel partner to my distributors, I need to assist them in helping them create the best experience, the best utility possible. And we realize that content is the way to do that. So if we can publish content to our distribution partners or our retail partners or our marketplace partners, that's setting us up as a company to have the best experience when they find the products that we sell for the keywords that we're selling on. So yeah, content is just a really critical part of that. And that's what Salsify does. We help companies manage content, manage product content, but more importantly, help them either ingest content from a distributor or publish content as a manufacturer, publish to all those different channel partners and keep all that great information in sync. And that's a very difficult task if you have 10 products, you can manage all that through Excel spreadsheets. I mean, and just do that, right? If you have thousands of products and potentially dozens or maybe even hundreds of channels that your product content's going out to, that's a scale problem. That's just a unique thing that we do.
No, exactly. And that is and that's also how we work together with Sana and Salsify. Is that sometimes we make it a side step. Of course, if the ERP is having product information and it's good or it's a good starting point, fine, and but it's most of the times when indeed the catalogs are getting bigger or this process is very important for them to keep running. Then clients choose to invest in tooling like Salsify, and we will work together that we make bypasses. Then we do not go to the ERP for that particular product information. Yeah, maybe we get the SKU and the product title as a start, but the rest is coming from Salsify, and we enrich it from there, and that's, I think, great. And especially the companies that benefit a lot from them. But I think there's an important lesson which I want to take from that where you started this part from, is that content and product information is not a one-time thing. It's let's say it's an ever-going thing that you need to understand. Doesn't matter if your company is small or big. I think they need to. That is maybe one of the lessons they need to take from this episode, right? That if you start also with B2B, it's not a one-time thing just to put it there. It needs to be continuously evolving, make it better. And it's also quite a big task, but we still see a lot of customers struggling. Yes, we are making tooling, both we are, and we are improving, but still it's a big job, right? Or a big piece of work to make your content. Yeah, to actually, in my opinion, it's transferring that physical experience. Digital is most of the time in the content, right? Where does this piece belong to? If it's a spare part, how does it fit, or how do you need to mount it or to install it? All that stuff, you need to. Yeah, it's not that you're buying a pair of shoes. You need to get your job done.
Well, I mean, even customers look at customers for different distributors are different too, right? So one distributor might serve oil and gas customers, another might serve kind of MRO customers. And if that's the case, then probably the content might be a little bit different for each of those distributors because they're dealing with different types of customers. Maybe the applications are different. Yeah. And so, I would characterize this whole thing as it is not a project. It's not a cute little web store that we're putting out there, right? It's a strategic competitive advantage that needs to be a program, that needs to have leadership in place. And it needs to be a program that's constantly improving, focused on change management, and focused on evangelizing this type of new interaction throughout the whole organization and then to our customers and our partners. And certainly that approves to content, but it really applies to everything that we've talked about today.
So just what you mentioned here on the last one, is that also one of the main reasons when you see, for example, maybe explicitly external adoption lacking? So if you of course, we always see the great stories of companies that succeed really in B2B, but we also see the companies that say, we do not really get it adopted in our, with our B2B buyers. So besides of making it, let's say, a process and a thing, a strategic thing in your company, what other tips or things could you supply or give to the listeners to investigate?
I've got a surefire way for adoption. If this is what you roll out to your sales organization. This is going to be exaggerated, but it's going to make a really good point. If you want adoption on your website, sit down with your sales team and have your leadership sit down with their sales team and say, for all e-commerce orders, you're going to get paid 125% on those orders for your customers. For all non-e-commerce orders, you're going to get paid 40% on those orders. You will get 30-day adoption, 100% adoption in 30 days. Because, right, we're aligning compensation to the things we find important. It's an exaggerated point, right? It's an exaggerated point but it's there to say, listen, if you want adoption, start internal. Start with your sales team, start with your leadership. If you get those teams on board, and I think compensation's a really great way of doing that, by the way. If you can align compensation to those goals, typically your teams will fall in line to where their compensation's at, right? So it starts with that internal adoption, but there are still trust issues, right? Websites typically aren't adopted by customers after the internal adoption. They're not adopted by customers because they don't trust the website. They don't trust the content on the website. They don't trust the inventory availability on the website. They don't trust the supply chain. They don't even trust the pricing on the website. Why? Because it's inconsistent, right? They call this person, they get one number, they look on the website, they get another number. And so you've got to make consistency across the entire organization. And consistency is just another word for omni-channel. Omni-channel is a bad kind of buzzword. But that's what omni-channel means. It means across all channels that you have consistency. And when you have consistency, you get trust built in with it. When you have trust built in with it, people start to use it. If you continue to make that experience better and easier, they'll start to use it more and you'll get significant adoption. So internal adoption, aligned compensation, and executive alignment. External adoption, build that trust through the consistency represented. And that encompasses everything that we've talked about today, right?
Yeah.
The integration with the ERP, the content, the product content, everything.
Yeah. And maybe one thing that we didn't elaborate there, and how important is real-time aspect there in your opinion?
So, I mean, it depends on what kind of real-time data you're talking about. I think real time when it comes to things like inventory availability, I think is pretty important. Pricing, pricing might be able to be done, maybe not real time, but kind of daily updates. But there are parts of the kind of the buying journey that need real time data, and there are many parts that don't need real time. Like product content does not need to be real time, right? Images don't need to be real time. Pricing may be updated regularly. Inventory availability, probably. I mean, it probably needs to be close to real time, especially as you start getting shorter on stock, right? It becomes important. Again, consistency, right? If you look at the things that would matter if someone's calling you on the phone about what's real time and what's not, that's important. So someone could probably look on a price list, an Excel price list, and pull the price. I bet if someone wants to know if we have the inventory available, I bet they look in the ERP and get that real time. I bet they look and say, where do we have it? In what warehouse do we have it? How fast can we get it to the customer? That it's actually not that hard if you just think of the things you would do on the phone or through email with a customer and replicate that type of journey online. It's the same information.
Yeah, no, I agree. We take it maybe even a little bit for sure with inventory, but how we explain it and it's mostly on what I call the holy trinity of B2B e-commerce is, let's say, transaction, price, and stock. These three things needs to be in our opinion real time. And the inventory inventory is of course the is a no-brainer. But for transaction, you can say, there can be a delay or something, but we see a lot of companies struggling if it's not real time. Of course, you can have, issues with your inventory if it's not happening, but also with price calculations and so on. And just the trust thing, I really like that you mentioned that because, just give me an example from B2C or another way. I just yesterday booked a nice holiday to Florida for in May, so I'm going to visit the US. So you have always with this booking sites that you place that, that the flight details and your whole package, just what you want, car, etc. And then it just said, okay, we took your order, but you do not know if it is being booked or confirmed, right? It's that. And then I was just waiting. Oh yeah, will it happen? Will it not happen? And I needed to combine also, two orders because my parents-in-law were also joining, could not do it in one order. So with my family, parents-in-law, and I just want to be both on that plane.
Right.
We want to travel together. So I was in that 1 hour of uncertainty if that would happen or not. And I can imagine that is not convenient. I wanted to actually have it if it's real time. Yeah, it's booked, bam, correct. Everything settled, right? So that is what I would like. And that's, okay, now it took an hour. But I think with B2B, that's the same, at least what we hear from our customers. If you're on a job and you're stressful, or you need to finalize it, and you just get an email, yeah, we are processing your order, we will confirm it, and you're waiting and waiting. It's not what you want. You just want, it's there, it's taken, it's approved, it will be there. You get a text message or you get an email, the delivery is on its way, or you get it tomorrow, or you get it in 2 hours. That's I think the convenience you want.
I would even look. I think it's important to look, pre-sale, but post-sale too. I mean, you kind of started going down this path of order status. Yeah. Order status, shipping status probably should be close to real time as well, right? Of understanding where that order's at. I mean, I think again, it's pretty simple when you just kind of map out what the customer journey looks like. The problem is, and I've been talking a lot about this on LinkedIn recently. The problem is that companies often think that they want to create an Amazon-like experience, and that's a horrible way of going about business. Amazon business is not trying to create an Amazon-like experience, right? Amazon business is just using the tools given them by Amazon on how to think like a customer to build tools for their customers. And whatever that experience ends up being, it's about providing that utility to the customer. So often we just kind of go in with a perception of what we want to create. We want to create an e-commerce site that looks like Amazon. Well, that's a horrible way of doing business. What you want to do is understand your customers, understand their buying processes, understand your customers and how they view your products and how they purchase, and then make their job as easy as possible, right?
Correct.
That might mean starting with deep integrations instead of an e-commerce site. It might mean creating something that looks a lot like Amazon. Most of the time, I doubt it, but sometimes it might create something like that. But you never know. So start with that. Start with understanding that customer journey, and it'll just make it a lot simpler for you.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Great lesson again. So last part I want to talk about you is, I'm not sure how it is in the US, but we all see that, is there a recession going on or not? We see a lot of layoffs in the technology firms and so on. So do you think there will be let's say, what will be the impact for B2B companies, manufacturing, wholesale, distributing companies, when maybe economic times will go down a little bit? Is it then the moment to invest in B2B or not? Or because it's also, most of the time, it is a big, it's a big investment, right? But you mentioned it's not a 2-week thing. What do you think would be the impact, or if we not do?
I do see, economic recession, certainly coming our way, and it certainly will affect quite a few companies. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing from the most forward-looking companies. What I'm hearing from the most forward-looking companies are, this is opportunity for us. Yes, we may need to get a little bit leaner. Yes, we may need to become a little more efficient, but this is going to be the opportunity for us. Our customers are also going to become leaner and more efficient. How do you think customers are going to become leaner and more efficient? They're going to rely more on technology. They're going to rely more on their partnerships. They're going to rely more on collaboration with their partners in this process. So there's significant opportunity. The companies that are forward looking like that are now heavily investing in e-commerce. Again, taking the lens of, how do I make my customer's job easier? They're heavily investing in e-commerce to be ready for the lean team, as well as the efficiency that they need to drive out of it, and the opportunities that they're going to have to serve their customers in very unique ways. In every recession, I started my blog in 2007. That's when the last recession started for us in the US. And, there was significant opportunities during that time, as there will be in this time. So it's
Correct.
a time to not overinvest. I mean, overinvesting is silly. There's a time now to start building your program, right? Not your project, but build your program that helps you improve throughout the session, so that you can take advantage of all the opportunities that are going to be in front of you.
Yeah, I think that is the big lesson, and how you can translate it maybe even more practically is, instead of maybe investing on what you did all the years before in, maybe investing in your sales force, your physical sales force, trips they are doing, that you can say, hey, let's turn it around, let's make it digital and incentivize them, right? That you can put your money, the same amount of money in another program, as you mentioned, right? And that is, I think, the smart choices these companies need to do if they have not done it yet. So, and that's how you can be resilient to these times and actually take the opportunity. Because indeed, I'm a positive guy. I always see in these times that times are changing, and that's actually always good, because there will be new opportunities to explore. We will see from there. I think we can help a lot companies that are up for change, that we can help. So
if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting.
Exactly.
Right.
That is 100% true.
There's also, I think there's also going to be lots of opportunities on things like marketplaces and collaboration between. I mean, we saw in the last recession, we saw some really neat companies launch. I watched one distributor launch 3 separate digital entities to serve different segments of their customer base. They're a traditional distributor. Now those 3 digital entities are significantly bigger than the original entity, right?
Yes.
In fact, I think 7 or 8 times as big as that original entity, because they decided to double down and really kind of use this as a time to test this market. So I'm not just talking about opportunities to maintain. I'm talking about significant opportunities for growth as you do that.
No, that's a great story. Yeah, we are running out of time. Time flies always when talking like with B2B enthusiasts. So this was a great experience for me, and hopefully also for our listeners, I'm pretty sure, by the way. So we had some nice lessons being shared by you, Justin. So thank you very much for that. And you mentioned just in the short pre-talk we had, you visit the Netherlands a couple of times. So maybe next time if you visit, you're more than welcome to visit us, visit me here in our nice headquarters here in Rotterdam. So you're invited.
Sounds good. I really appreciate you having me on. I hope some of the stuff I said was valuable to your audience. Let's do it again.
All right. Thank you very much, and have a great day.